Today we're talking about something that can really trip up new coders and even some experienced ones, and that's the 7th characters in ICD-10-CM. That one digit may seem kind of simple, but it can make or break differences in the appropriateness of the diagnosis code, and it can trip you up on some questions too for those certification exams. If you're new there, hey, I'm Victoria. I'm a medical coder, auditor, educator, and content creator, and on my channel I provide tips, tricks, and tutorials on how to help make you a better medical coder. In ICD-10-CM, there are some codes that can be a full code with just 3 digits. 3 digits is what we call a category, but they can go up to 7 digits. And sometimes that 7th digit can give us more information about like an injury or a fracture, like if it is an initial encounter or a subsequent or a sequelae, or even give us further details about healing and other factors. If it has a 7th character, it is required that you put that 7th character in. A lot of times the 7th character isn't so much about what happened, but also like when in the process this patient is with this condition. The 3 most common 7th characters that we have are A, S, and D. A is when it is the active treatment. So they're coming in for that initial surgery. It's that initial emergency room visit, initial visit that they're going to urgent care or to their family doctor. And it doesn't necessarily mean it is the first, but usually it's around there. D is for the subsequent encounter. And you might think, why is it not S for subsequent? Well, S is for sequelae, so we have D for subsequent. And that means it is the routine healing phase of that injury. And then S is for sequelae, so that might be complications that happen after that patient is actually healed from the injury. So something like a scar after a patient has had a laceration or a fracture, or maybe the fracture didn't heal correctly. Other 7th characters do exist, but those are kind of the 3 heavy hitters. But how do you know if you need a 7th character? Remember I said that some codes are 3 digits. They might be 4, 5, 6, or 7, anywhere in that range. And sometimes you'll see a code and it might have 3 digits or 4 digits, but there will be an indicator there, an icon of some kind in the code book or your ebook that will indicate that it needs a 7th character. Now that 7th character has to go in the 7th character spot, meaning that if you only have 3 characters, in order to put that in the 7th spot, something else has to go in between there. And they might not have full designations of this, and this specifies all these different things. So what they'll do is they use what we call a placeholder X. So let's say it's code A12, and then we need a 7th character A at the end. We will put X's in those spaces where we don't have those characters to fill out all of the full digits to make sure that that A goes in that 7th character spot. Now, in order to figure out what those 7th character options are, what you want to do is look above that in your book. If you start going upwards or backwards, it will eventually have a grid that says what are the applicable 7th characters for that code. A lot of them are going to be that A, D, and S, but some of them are going to have more specified 7th characters. So some of the fracture codes, they might have G, and that is for a subsequent encounter for a fracture with delayed healing. So don't always assume it's going to be A, S, or D, because if you go back, they might have a more expansive ones, especially in things like fractures, but you'll also see them in OB care. You'll see them in some musculoskeletal conditions, and even in some different injury codes and burn codes as well. But remember that A is for the active and the D, the subsequent, is for that healing phase. So they're coming in for dressing changes. They're coming in because it's still healing that fracture. The burn is still healing. So those are still that healing phase when it has completely healed, but now we have some kind of after effect. That's when it is a sequelae. Where I see a lot of coders trip up is they don't see that there might be some other selection versus just A, S, and D, or they skip the 7th character completely. They don't go and code the full extent of the code, meaning that they're forgetting those placeholder X's, or maybe they're not reading the note correctly to make sure that they're coding it either for the active treatment or for the healing phase. So always check if a code requires a 7th character, and then what those 7th characters are that are applicable for that code. Make sure you fill in with those placeholder X's. If you have questions about the 7th characters, definitely let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. And until then, just keep on coding on.